Hey everybody, my name's Adam Brous,
I'm Scott Maupin.
and this is Solutions from the Multiverse, where we bring you a new solution every week to your happy earballs.
So thanks for joining us, and come by each Tuesday morning. We'll have a new episode ready for you. Here we go. Well, hey Adam, how you doing?
Hey Scott, I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. I'm doing, so great. Actually, not really. I was kind of bummed. I was kind of
Wait,
bummed.
what?
I've been bummed recently.
You just went the entire spectrum from I'm great to I'm bummed.
Yeah, my
In
mood.
this span of 2 seconds.
My mood disorder is swinging around. No, I just been bummed recently. I mean, my life is pretty good. I've got things going really well, like personally. I don't know. Someone called me a crypto bro the other day, and it hurt my feelings.
Who called you a crypto
I
bro?
know, right? Some anonymous person.
I'm not disagreeing with them.
I'm not
asking.
a crypto bro. I'm the opposite of a crypto bro.
Hey, we'll get to that later. I just want to know who this was.
I hate cryptos. I reject them.
Classic crypto bro behavior.
No.
What?
What?
Why did they call you a crypto bro?
Because I was telling them, because people asked me in the environment, it was like a Discord server. Somebody asked me in a channel knew me about my new currency that I'm working on. And so I answered their question. And then like 3 or 4 people asked other questions. So I answered those. And then some guy comes out of nowhere and is like, "This guy is just a crypto bro. He should be canceled. No one should be allowed to talk about this on this channel." And then people were like, "Yeah, he's right." And I was like, what the? I was asked to explain what I'm doing here, you know?
I mean, that's the danger
Oh
of a
my
new idea,
God.
right?
I
You're going
guess.
to be met with hostility.
I was thinking about it. I was trying to think of an example like from the world, from history, because that's sometimes I take solace, not sometimes, often I take solace in thinking about historical examples that are analogous to the situation I'm in. And it really gives me a lot of emotional solace, because you don't feel lonely anymore.
What are the historical examples that are similar to being called a crypto bro?
Well,
You know what I bet was an early version of the crypto bro?
what?
The first guy, when they were making armor and they started having chainmail, and they were like, no, that's not going to work. You need like a big solid plate of armor. And they were like, no. This stuff where it's like little interlocking links. And those guys started being called chainmail males. And that was the original crypto bro, was the chainmail male.
Chainmail males. I was thinking about anatomists. Like, Galen was this Roman anatomist that people believed for like 900 years. They thought whatever Galen said was right about anatomy. And he had like major things totally wrong. But then some anatomists in like the Renaissance, they started, like Leonardo da Vinci, and then later, more and more people started to actually do like their own autopsies, like their own, dissections. And they would realize Galen's wrong on like all these points. And then, but those
Da
people
Vinci's
then
like,
would be called the
"Look,
crazy.
Don't ask me too many questions, but I got a corpse. I took it apart. Don't ask questions.
Don't ask.
And I'm telling you, this other guy, he is wrong about where this muscle goes with this muscle. It doesn't work.
You couldn't say Galen was wrong. If you said Galen was wrong, you were immediately canceled. I mean, talk about cancel culture. Like, you were canceled if you said that Galen, even a word of Galen, was not right. And, so I think about that. I think about, well, I'm kind of like those early anatomists, who are saying Galen's actually full of shit. When I'm like, oh,
is this your way of confessing to me that
yeah.
you've been stealing corpses and doing your own autopsies on them in secret? Is this how you're soft pedaling me into this idea?
It's a pretty roundabout way of doing it, but I do have to tell you about the new graveyard near my house.
The new local artisanal graveyard that I've just created. Adam, bring me a solution today.
Okay.
What do you got?
So last episode, we had a bunch of little solutions.
We did.
Okay. This episode, we have one big honker.
A big honking solution. Okay.
We got a big honking solution.
So there will be no secondary solutions in this. If any other solutions come in,
sometimes.
we kick them right out.
Sometimes generally we got, can't keep a good man down, can't just keep one solution. But we're going to try to do a big honker. So this is like the solution. Like people are often like, oh, there's just such big problems in the world. Oh, climate change. Oh,
who are you imitating?
Democracy is falling apart. Fascism. Bah. They're right. I don't know why I'm being mean. They're right. I actually believe those are big problems. But people then just kind of go like, oh, but what can we do? I guess we'll have to vote in 4 years from now for, the lesser of two evils. Like they don't. Sure. They're like, oh, we can recycle better.
We seem to be on a bad trajectory. Well, we'll have a chance to change it in 4 years minorly.
Yeah, and then what I can do is, well, I could put in a heat pump. Like the things you can do are completely they're incommensurate with the problems. Sure. The problems are like these global, massive economic and societal problems, and then people are just like, I'll be vegan, and God bless them, for doing what they can. Yeah. And obviously, if everyone did that, that would have some effect. But it doesn't actually like hit the big things. So today, I will be proposing a solution that is commensurate with how big our problems are, and I will be proposing that we actually engage in this behavior, and it's nonviolent,
okay,
and it's good, and it has a track record of working extremely successfully throughout history.
I like things that are good and nonviolent and have a track record of working successfully throughout history. I'm on board,
and it's democratic, and it's egalitarian, and it's all these things.
Okay,
and the answer is a general strike.
A general strike. No more generals. Our military runs itself.
No more generals.
Generals stop working. No more general stores. Here. You can't buy your 5-cent candies anymore. What do you mean by general strike? So I think I have an idea of this.
General strike, yeah. So a general strike has two. Yeah, what is it?
Everybody stops working.
Everybody stops working, and not just stops working, but stops buying things too. So it's a mass boycott and mass. It's a mass disengagement with the economy.
Yeah,
and then a day of mass action politically.
Okay.
So everybody doesn't go to school, doesn't go to work, doesn't buy anything. And then they spend their whole day just taking direct like political action or doing whatever they can. Obviously, if you're like a mother with young children or like a nurse who takes care of the elderly or like a doctor, you should continue to like do the care.
No. Obviously, if you're a mother with young children, everybody you explain to your young children, no food today. We are on a general strike.
Food.
I won't be buying anything. I'm so sorry. Enjoy your hunger and maybe think about.
You can also buy the day before. But yeah, so here's the thing. Here's what people don't understand about general strikes. So people hear general strike and they think, oh, it's a strike. That means that it just goes on and on and on like forever. No, that's not how general strikes work. General strikes are usually a monthly or weekly or maybe even annually day of action. So just one day, periodically. I think probably for climate change, you'd want to do at least a monthly. I think that's what I would propose here is that we do, and I'm not new in saying this. This is what Greta Thunberg is doing already. But I think the whole world needs to like also do it at the same time. So we do like a monthly day of action.
Do you do this secretly or do you inform like your work?
No,
you say, hey,
everyone.
I'm not coming in because it's the general strike for climate change. Or you say, I'm not bringing my kid to school because the general strike for whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
You say, we're all, we won't, and you essentially have a bit of a Sabbath, almost like a political Sabbath. So you don't buy anything. All you do is things that'll make a difference for the cause.
So here's my first question. How do we get enough people to participate that this doesn't backfire terribly on the people who do it? Because if it's only a few people and someone calls their boss and says, hey, I'm not coming in today, general strike, the boss might just say, all right, keep not coming in. That's called generally fired. You're done. Like
general fired.
Yeah. Like,
yeah. I mean, this is why it needs to be called for by either a mass of people, like through the internet, like a flash mob. Like we need to have it sort of course through the internet as like a meme. Like everyone first Wednesday. I would suggest first Wednesdays, because if you make it a Friday, you don't have nearly as the impact as if you make it a Wednesday, like a day in the week. So I would say like Wednesdays, the first Wednesday of every month globally, we should make it a day of action for climate. And then that should become like a meme that goes through the internet. Everyone, don't go to school, don't go to work, don't buy anything. Take direct action to affect the climate on the first Wednesday of every month. Greta Thunberg's already doing this it's called First Fridays. Maybe we should just go along with her lead. You know,
I feel like First Fridays has some long-standing connotations that are different that you'd have to like go up against. Like First Fridays to me feels like you get out with people and walk around bar crawl or something, or there's like a bike parade, or like it feels like it's already been eaten
up. Her organization is called Fridays for the Future, which is I think
that's where you go to TGI Fridays strike for every meal forever until the future.
So Greta Thunberg's organization is probably the thing to follow. I think it's pretty good. Although she's saying like strike, but then she's kind of putting strike and protest together. So she's saying like go to your city hall. Yeah. Yeah. So she's saying like on every Friday from like 8 to 2 p.m. This is what it says on our website, or 8 to 3, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Go to your city hall and stand there with signs and be like, we're protesting for the climate. And that's like her idea of like a strike. Or like a protest thing. It's Fridays for the Future. I'm saying something a little bit different. I agree with that. And maybe we should coalesce and do it on the same day or whatever. But I'm saying that a bigger thing to do is to do a general strike, which means a day of action. I would suggest at least once a month. Maybe it's on Friday so that it can go together with this.
Okay.
Where everybody just withdraws their cooperation from the economy and the government.
Okay. I can definitely see the power in that. I'm curious, what's the direct, like, what are we striking for? Like, it makes sense. The Greta Thunberg, she's putting in there, she's like, we're striking for environmental change or whatever. What the general strike? What's the goal? How do we get someone to help, or like, what are our demands? I guess.
Well, you can general strike anything. That's the thing, but it's commensurate with big, huge societal problems. Okay. So like climate's a good example because it's like, well, how do we get climate crisis stuff going forward if we, if we don't, just voting for it doesn't seem to be working, and all this stuff just doesn't seem to be working. It's not enough. We need to up the ante. And this is the way to up the ante, basically, is to pick one day a month where everybody checks out of society and checks in to just doing activism that whole day. And this has worked in the past a lot. So I learned about this because I was in Spain in 2002, and they called for a huelga general, a general strike. And
how did they call for this in Spain? Was this like on the TV or flyers?
A lot of general, flyers, and just, a lot of general strikes are organized by labor unions. Okay. But like I said, they're not strikes. They're not traditional labor strikes. They're these days of mass action and mass
inaction,
non-cooperation.
Sure.
But they're usually generally organized by labor movements and labor movement adjacent organizations. But today with social media, they could be organized very spontaneously. But labor should be, I think, helping a lot. But basically, you can do it for anything. So in 2002, the Spanish very successfully, the Spanish people fought the elites and the government of Spain, who were adjusting all their social services down. So they were removing, they were lowering their social security, they were lowering their social health care, they were, lowering their protection for labor, they were lowering the minimum wages and stuff. Okay. And the people were like, screw this. And so they said, look, I think it was every week on Friday, nobody go to school, nobody go buy anything, nobody do anything except for go and protest, take direct action, volunteer, organize, And I was there, and we would say, general strike, we're not going to school on Fridays. And we did that for like 4 months. We didn't go to school on Fridays. My friends and I would just not go to school, and we would just like go out in the streets. Now, we were teenagers. We didn't really give a shit about the general strike. So we went and hung out.
I was going to ask, did that have any impact to you, like on your grades, or did you have any repercussions from that at all?
No, because most of the teachers were also striking.
Okay.
So everybody was in solidarity. Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a king of Spain at that point? How does Spain
run as
Juan
far Carlos II. They have a king, but the king
going on.
I think so. Yeah. But it's a constitutional monarchy. After Franco, the fascist dictator, fell, then the king took over again. But he granted democracy to the country.
Oh, that's
so
very
they're
nice
like they're like a constitutional monarchy. Yeah. Yeah.
I will allow all of democracy to happen, but it's because I am allowing it as the king. I decree democracy. That's a very interesting way to kind of be on both sides of the fence there.
Yeah, he gets to win history as like one of the greatest. He's like George Washington.
I am the boss of the whole country, and I've decreed that people vote, and it's democracy.
I'm not the boss anymore. Yeah. But I get to keep all this land and money that my family has forever. Yeah, don't
Everyone
forget
gets to vote on everything except on whether or not I get to live in a palace. That's just
which
not on
and all my descendants forever get to be insanely wealthy for no reason. Awesome.
But you guys, like democracy for you guys, that's what I'm interested in. You're welcome.
You're welcome. We got this. Yeah. So Spain did it, and I saw that work really well. So they fought by doing that. So here's how it works. So people might say, you're just saying protest. I'm not saying protest. No. I think protesting is actually really pretty stupid.
You're not saying protest in the get out and shout in the streets way.
No. I think it's really easy to make those people look really stupid. And so I think it's better actually for people to just stay home and just like take direct action in other ways.
Okay.
Like anything. I mean, you could be on social media, you could create, you could work on an organization, you could do get out the vote stuff, you could do all kinds of, you could write blog posts, you could share on social media, you could create discourses in all kinds of different communities.
Completely different, but it sounds somewhat related to like the idea of those tech companies that are like 1 day a week or 1 day a quarter, you get to work on whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like do whatever you want, and
that's cool.
And it's like just let your juices flow. Whatever you want to work on, go ahead and do that. And that sort of way they open it up and let everybody kind of innovate. And this is a different way to kind of say, okay, guys, take time, think about the world, think about how would you make it better, and then literally just start doing that.
Just do it.
What's the first step of that? Do it.
Yeah.
And that's
and there could be protests and stuff in the street, but I would recommend against that, because then you get all this like the media knows how to make protesters look stupid, and they either ignore them or they make them look like the bad guys. But if you're at home and no one's in the street and no one's buying anything and no one's going to work, or even a large, even 5 or 10% of people are not going to work or not buying something, that's kind of a major effect on the economy. So that's the thing to remember is if you think about it, any month usually has like 1 or 2 Mondays or Fridays off already, right? Holidays. Mm-hmm. So usually each month only has about 18 working days, right?
Okay.
18 working days. I
follow that.
So that means if you take 1 day away, that's almost 7% of the total productivity.
Yeah.
Right. So if you just say 1 day a month, we are not going to work, we're not buying anything, we're not doing anything, then that will literally like affect things. Like it will literally push down production by like a significant, a percent or two, a few percentage points.
Yeah.
And that may sound like not a big deal, but if you're in the rooms of these like large corporations, their margins of profit are only like, 3 to 8%. Mm-hmm. So if you can push that down by 3% or 2%, it's very significant. Like they will be like executives and CEOs and investors will be like melting down if you could push their profits down by even 2 or 3%. And so that's why, a general strike is actually like putting your boot down. It's like the people putting their boot down on the throat of corporations.
I mean, the in the streets protest, a lot of it is not changing the hearts and minds of the people you disagree with. It's, it's being a disturbance, it's being noticed, it's being disruptive. And in the modern world, a lot of the like super rich people that you're trying to disrupt are not getting disrupted by a group of people standing in the street with signs. They're just not. And if you have a different way like this, what you're suggesting, where you affect the bottom line in a massive way all at once, that is disruptive. That does actually get noticed. That actually will get their attention and go, okay, wait a minute. Okay, so we need to maybe negotiate and not just ignore everything you're doing here.
Right.
Yeah.
So organize and then all the direct action that comes from it. So, you're not just sitting around on your hands during that day. On that day, you're like you said, you're like doing an innovation day. Like, what could I do? And it's like, oh, I could organize a boycott of high carbon consumer goods. Oh, let's do that. Oh, I could organize my whole neighborhood switching to environmental cleaning products. I'll teach everybody that,
which,
or whatever.
Which also sounds like a lot, but maybe I don't want to think about what I have to do on my day, but I have an organization that I trust, and then they send out a thing that says, today do this, or today call these people.
Yeah.
And I go, okay,
or
cool.
just don't do anything.
Or don't.
You can also just like lay around, and as long as you don't go to work, don't buy anything.
I mean, there's the one that I'm honestly going to do. That's the one. That's honestly.
You just watch movies. You can watch movies.
Well, is watching movies giving money to the streaming corporations, though?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
All right.
The streaming corporations aren't bad for the climate.
You can only watch pirated movies, maybe.
Although, if the streaming corporations are blocking like the SAG, like the writers,
yeah.
So then people should be boycotting the streaming services.
So that's a discussion that's actually not being called for yet by the SAG or WGA. Is to boycott streamers, but it's in the toolbox of future things. If I heard a
really cool thing, which is that A24, the fantastic film, they've already accepted the demands of the SAG and the WGA, which means they're making movies. Right. They're back in business.
Well, and they're the only studio allowed to promote the films that they're releasing right now as well.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, that's just the free market, baby. Like they went to the table and negotiated, and now they're making money, making movies. So I think that's pretty cool. So you could watch A24 movies on our day of action. But I mean, we were talking about climate, but you can also do a day of action or what's called a general strike for anything, but it should be broad based, You shouldn't like do it on a very divisive issue, because if you do it on a divisive issue, then it's like, you can really create a lot of tension. You should do it on something that 90% of people agree with, like getting money out of politics.
Because everybody agrees with that. You need to get, a massive amount of people participating. So you need very popular, undivisive issues to start with, at least,
Right.
Absolutely. I like that. So how would we, if you're actually going to kick off the idea of a general strike, and you can't do it with just one or two people, that's not going to work. We need a critical mass. How do you get that critical mass to happen? What is your shortcut to how would we do that?
So, I mean, what would be really great is if Bernie Sanders would call for it.
Okay.
But he hasn't done that. Even when we were trying to get Build Back Better passed, he didn't say, hey, we've got 10 weeks to get Build Back Better passed. How about nobody works every Friday for the next 10 weeks? If he had called for that, probably about, 800,000 or 2 million people would have not worked on Friday for 10 weeks. And maybe Build Back Better would have been stronger, like the ability to get something like universal childcare or universal, lower healthcare costs, negotiating, premiums on drugs. And anyways,
the first thing that comes to mind, though,
a really good way to kick it off
is that Bernie Sanders' name has become very divisive, I feel, in the past 8 years. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of a flag for one side and a boo for the other side. I don't know. Am I off?
I mean, not really. I mean, a huge portion of Trump voters said it's something like 30%. You have to fact check me on that, but it's a large fraction of Trump voters. Their second choice was Bernie Sanders.
Okay.
So, you have to not think left and right, and instead think about like inside outside,
So we get a prominent figure to start by calling for the strike, explaining
that would help.
Explaining why we need it and when, giving some like lead time, right? You want to give somebody, you don't want to be just like, it's happening tomorrow. You want to give people,
it's once a month, so you could say next month, first Friday, I mean, or a big organization like the labor organizations could do it. So right now the labor organizations are fighting a lot of fights on a lot of fronts already. They're like striking and threatening to strike and doing all this interesting stuff, which is great. And maybe when if they succeed in some of those, maybe this will be a thing they do going forward. But I think the labor movements need to be kind of brought into it, but I don't see them as being really the leaders of it.
Okay.
Because maybe the labor movement doesn't seem to be like deliberately and for like climate change, or deliberately for maybe paid maternity leave, maternity leave, and universal childcare. That the labor unions would probably support that.
Well, so the labor union is working toward the situations that improve the lives of workers, which does not always line up with what's best for the earth. Yeah.
But they could not do a climate change one and instead do a family based one like maternity, paternity leave, universal childcare, and maybe better access, like a public option healthcare. And they could say that those three are, union based, and then everybody could get behind that, kind of like a Build Back Better, thing that was going to be trying to be passed, but then obviously got totally shut down by horrible monsters.
The normal American political conundrum machine that chews everything up and makes it the worst version that comes out the other end. Yeah.
But it's also because the people don't actually do this. Like, this is what we would have needed in order to get something like that passed. The people, like, power never cedes power unless it's taken by a greater power. And so the people, as the greatest power, need to take action, and the action they take needs to be non-cooperation and direct action.
Okay.
Peaceful direct action and non-cooperation. And this is just like focusing that peaceful action and non-cooperation like a laser onto one day, so that it becomes like focused enough and bright enough for people and for powerful, corporations to have to take notice. Take notice.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So I think so you would say maybe start with once a month, and that's like the impact. And it's kind of like, essentially it's like having a 12-day strike over the year, but you've spread it out to less inconvenience the people you're asking to participate. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think that works good.
Right. That's a good way to think about it. Yeah. 12-day strike per year. Yeah.
Have there been, you seem like a history guy. Have there been any examples of general strikes being really successll in the past?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Spain one is really
a good
example,
one, right?
Because it was 2002, so it was pretty recent. And then I think that COVID is a really good example of it was a general strike without it being like a political general strike, but it was basically a general strike. Because what did everyone do? Everyone said, we're not going to work. And we're also not leaving our house, like going to stores either. And therefore, we're not buying things and we're not going to work. And because even 10, 15% of people were scared to do that, the whole society not only shut down, but went through huge paroxysms of change.
I feel like there was actually like they were able to notice a decrease in the emissions of the earth, like the greenhouse gas emissions.
Although it recovered afterwards. It recovered.
So. But they were like, whoa, look at that.
But like, I think the two options would be a climate change one and then like a labor one, like a universal childcare, universal healthcare, universal, stuff. That those two would be good.
It would give this eerie sort of feeling in cities. Like I've been in Japan, like on New Year's, when in America, New Year's, like it's a party, everywhere's open late, especially. And in Japan, it's like, nope, everyone's at home with their families. Things are shut down. Restaurants shut down, convenience stores shut down, just things with a little note on the door that says it's closed for New Year's. And I was shocked my first year there at how shut down everything was, not for a strike reason, but just the eeriness of nobody being in business.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happened when I went to India. I was there during Diwali and I went back to Delhi, and Delhi was cleaned out. It was empty because everyone had gone home to celebrate Diwali, and like places were closed, businesses like restaurants were shut down. They were like, we'll be back in however many days. And it was just wild to see. That would be amazing to be able to see happen in our country for like a good reason, for a good purpose. That would be pretty transformational, I feel, to be in the country during that time. So at what point do you get to because obviously you're doing this to get the attention of corporations and make them feel the pain in their wallets or whatever. At what point do you say, okay, we're done with this, you guys can go back to business, we're stopping the general strike? What would have to happen?
Well, I think you have demands. You have to have demands.
Okay.
So like if it was the labor one, you'd say, until we have, 60 days or night, go big, because you have to negotiate down. So
sure.
Say, so we want 6 months maternity, paternity leave, and we want universal childcare has to be cheaper than, cheaper than 15% of anybody's average wage. And we need, and you just define exactly what you want. And then you say the general strike is not stopping it's going to happen periodically until these demands are met.
Gotcha.
And then when the corporate leaders are like, shit, this is actually hurting our bottom line, like our stock is falling because we're not selling as much because we got 12 days off a year that we didn't budget for, which is a significant amount, then they go to the table. They contact the leaders of the leaders of the strike, and they say, hey, how can we do this? And you say, well, this is what we can do. We can tell the Congress to pass this law that would end the strike. And obviously it becomes a negotiation at that point. Maybe you end up with 30 days paid paternal maternal leave, and maybe childcare costs a little bit more than 10% of people's wages or whatever. But you start with a really what would be even better than ideal, and then you try to negotiate to a good situation.
Well, and it addresses this problem wherein the American system is supposed to be built to where the public has representatives and they listen to what you say and then they vote accordingly. But we've transformed into this thing where
we've gotten rid
companies
of that.
and people with lobbyists have outsized voices in the ears of our representatives, and they get the laws to be spread their way. So if we can affect the corporations that are affecting the representatives, then it becomes a roundabout way to kind of get back to what we were supposed to be originally, which was representatives representing our interests and doing things for the good of the larger people, even if it goes against what company A wants for their bottom line or whatever. Yeah.
That's totally right. It's like direct democracy, but not voting. It's like literally voting with your feet, like just, voting with your wallet and your feet and saying, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to this. I'm not going to buy anything today.
Man, and I'll tell you why it's more attractive to me. Anything that involves not doing something to accomplish your task instead of doing something extra. Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Protesting out in the streets is a thing, but it's also, I got to get ready. I got to go out. I got to be there at a certain time. If my only task is to not do stuff, I feel like I could accomplish that. Pretty mindlessly.
You can get a lot of people on board. It's like, you're going to take 12 more days off a year. Sounds pretty good.
I have a much better time controlling my weight when I just don't eat some bad stuff than when I try to cram an extra gallon of kale down my throat every day or something like that. I'm just not going to, I'm not going to adhere to that in the long term.
I'm looking at you, Scott. I'm thinking you haven't crammed the kale recently very often.
How dare you? I'm a regular kale crammer. You have no idea. If I was auditioning for Frasier, they'd call me Kale C. Crammer.
Oh my God. Wow.
I threw that in because I know you love Frasier so much.
Cuts. Oh, I love Frasier. But I mean, that's such a deep cut. Oh my God. That's awesome. So I should say that I've been having a Wikipedia battle about general strike.
I'm sorry. You said that like that's a normal sentence people say. I've been having a Wikipedia battle as if I've ever heard that before. Go ahead and tell me what this is.
I've updated the Wikipedia page for the term general strike like 3 times.
Okay.
And every time a few weeks or whatever, a few months later, it switches basically back to what it was before. Because there's some kind of general strike wiki cronies who just sit around and basically fight my better, I have a better, I'm trying to propose what is clearly true, and I even put citations and references and everything. And then these jerks on Wikipedia, they're just other people like me. They're not professionals. No. And they change it back, 90, 80, 95% back. They leave a little bit of what I put in.
What are you including that gets removed?
So
what is
all
the
I'm
content?
doing, so if you go to the general strike Wikipedia page, it's all about the Third International Workers Convention in 1919, and it's what the fuck is all this? What is all this crap about?
Okay.
Who cares about pre-World War II labor movement stuff? So all I did is it's easy. I just say, look, there's a modern general strike and there's a historic general strike. The historic general strike is when technically a general strike in history meant if one labor union went on strike, and then other labor unions were we're going to strike too, not because there's anything wrong with our working conditions, but only in solidarity with the other labor union.
Okay.
That was called a general strike.
Right.
Okay. That's illegal. It's been illegal for almost 40 years in America to do that.
Okay.
Because they did that in the 70s or something, and then the government was like, no, you can only strike if you actually have a grievance Like you actually have to have a grievance. You can't just strike because other people are striking. So basically, general strikes, the sort of historic definition, is illegal. And yet, if you go to the general strike Wikipedia page, it's all about that kind of general strike. That's what I would call, what is actually, I think, the better term for it is that's called a sympathetic strike. So you're striking in sympathy with another union. A general strike has ceased to mean that in modern parlance, and now means what we have been discussing so far in the episode: a day of action, maybe a periodic day where you withdraw cooperation and maybe you take some direct action, or you do some kind of activism.
Okay,
that's a general strike now. So I'm just trying to put that into the Wikipedia page. I don't delete what they say. I just move it into a historic general strike section. And I make a modern general strike section, and I explain how modern general strikes work. And they come back and they delete 95% of what I said. They put back their weirdo 1927, what some like French dudes and, 16 French dudes sitting around in, Marseille said in 1927. Like, who cares? It's so stupid. Jesus, stop now, changing my Wikipedia
I'm looking
page.
At Wikipedia. It looks like you can see the edit history, and your last edit, you just wrote Adam Brous 72 times at the end of it. What? I can see why they're editing that part out. You're just like Adam Brous, Adam Brous, Adam Brous, Adam Brous. No. So clearly the real thing we need our listeners to enact this general strike for the good of the world, but more importantly, for the good of you not having to spend your time fighting on Wikipedia anymore, because it'll be accepted and understood, and you won't have to like push this stone up the hill every day and then watch them edit it back down to the bottom for you.
Down to nothing. Yeah. They change it like all the time too. People are always, and it just gets worse and worse and worse, because it's a bunch of, I know what it is, which is it's a bunch of socialists and communists who are like the worst. I mean, I cannot stand communists. They are such losers, and their whole ideology has just lost consistently for the past like 100 years. They've just lost, losers. People don't want it. It's not good. It doesn't work. And then they go in here and they just are like, well, we can edit the general strike Wikipedia page all day long. It's like, Jesus Christ, your ideology is dumb and derelict and stupid. Why
do these people not want to engage with you when you come at them like that? That's so strange.
I don't say that. I say, hey guys, like let's do this, let's do that, and then they literally delete what I say. It's horrible. Yeah. So that's the solution. So the next time people are like going, the problems are so big and systemic.
General strike, you idiot.
Oh, let's do a general strike. And then
general striking already.
And then when people say, oh, we don't want to do it. Oh, general strike, that seems weird. It's like, what seems weird is heating up the earth so that human life can't live there. That's weird,
Wow. Mic drop.
Yeah.
You're like, what else is weird is that strange snivelly voice you keep using for no reason. Why are you petitioning me with that voice? But
you do the thing. Or what else is weird? What's weird is like all the people who create all the value of the economy being given like 5% of the value that they create. That's weird. That's really weird. It's not weird? Those people not cooperating anymore until the situation changes.
Yeah.
That's not weird. That's extremely normal. Like, if you had a bunch of kids and the kids are all given candy and you gave 95% of the candy to one of the kids and all the other kids saw it and all the other kids got 5% to split among them,
you're putting a target.
Screw this.
You're putting a target on the back of Candy Kid.
Yeah, Candy Kid's going to get decked.
You're just like, it seems like, oh, you love me so much. And you're in the background going, no, you have no idea what's coming.
No. You are about to get destroyed. They're going to general strike you. Yeah, they're going to strike you in the shoulder at least.
Well,
I don't know. What do you think the solution is, Scott? How do we solve these big problems?
I'm down with general strike. I'll do it let's do it 30 days a month. Like, that sounds good. Right. Like, who's going to bring me food? I don't know, but we'll figure that out along the way. But I like that idea. I don't know. I think this would be good because it does seem like the old ways of protesting have been kind of shut down or kind of neutered in ways where it's like they're not allowed to affect change the way that they used to. You're not allowed to disrupt commerce the way that you used to because everything, it's not physical anymore. Getting out into the streets is a limited, it's only so effective because only so much stuff goes through the streets anymore. Now stuff is going through the air, through the satellites and through everything. But through the satellites, I sound like an idiot, but yeah, I think
don't beat
I think it's great.
Up.
I think this would be good. It would just be, the question is how to get critical mass to do it. How do you get something popular enough to do it? I think it's picking the right issue and picking the right messenger. And, that's a big part of your task. So sometime in the future, we'll have the right messenger with the right issue, and we'll get, Justin Bieber to tell us to spay and neuter our cats, and everyone will finally act as one. We'll act as one as an earth. It'll be amazing.
What's cool is you don't actually need to act as one either. Like Eric, we talked about this before a little bit. Erica Chenoweth's research, a Harvard political scientist, she pulled a bunch of nonviolent actions that have taken place in the past, and she found out this golden number, right? 3.5%. If 3.5% take action in a nonviolent resistance, they've never lost. So once you hit 3.5% of people who are not cooperating and taking action, you win. It's the winning number. And so, that's why if you call for a general strike that's just monthly, it's such a light burden, but it can engage a huge number of people. Mm-hmm. And if you can hit that 3.5%, it's game over. You're going to win. If you want climate change to end, you're going to win. If you get 3.5% of people to actually take action on that. Same thing with if you want universal health care and, high minimum wage. And
perfect. So listeners at home, turn to your left, look at the 50 people sitting to your left and look at the 50 people sitting to your right. And you only need to convince 3.5 of them to do stuff. And you're one of them. So you only need 2.5 more people. Then we got it. That's all we need.
Mass action. It's weird that Americans don't seem to be capable of mass action. I think it has to do with cars, and it has to do with everyone being atomized. For example, my house, every single unit in this building has its own a few little garbage cans. When we could just get 1 or 2 big garbage cans and it would just be done. It would be way cheaper. It'd be way less work. But just Americans, we just have, everything is totally atomized.
It gets to that, one of that central tenets of America where they were the thing about America is no one gets to tell you what to do. And you're yeah. And then unless you need someone to tell us what to do. And then they're no, I reject it immediately. No. But other countries, I lived in Japan for a very long time. There was a lot of consideration. They have problems with this system as well, but there were some good things, which were when they're hey guys, there's a huge earthquake that just caused a nuclear reactor to melt down. Maybe let's all ration our food and be polite and not freak out. And they did. And it worked, it was terrible, but way less terrible than it could have been, or I fear that it would have been in America, because we act differently. It's very much get your own. All right. But I think we can bring this one home, because I think I understand where you're at. And we just need more than the two of us, right? The two of us doing a general strike is not
we could do a general strike.
You think just you and me?
Sure. We could start it.
We're starting, and then when people inevitably go, what are you doing? I'm I'm general striking. You need to join me. They're how do I join? I'll be stop doing what you're doing. Please join me.
Just do nothing. Yeah. Well, hopefully, this can, the people who are sick and tired of change not happening, which I'm certainly one of those people. We've known for 40 years that climate change is an existential threat to the planet.
Right.
Or not to the planet. The planet's fine. It's just a rock, but to human life and to, civilization. And it's just change just is not happening. And we've known that we need better, minimum wages and high, better access to healthcare and better maternity, paternity leave. We've known this for decades, and it just doesn't happen. And the reason it doesn't happen is because the people don't exert their power. And it just turns out that the way for the people to exert their power is through mass action in the form of this general strike, periodic mass action, where you just withdraw cooperation and take direct action. It's tremendous. It's a tremendous thing. And if we had even a tiny group of people, even just a few tens of thousands of people, or even one city, if San Francisco was an activist city, and even just that, it would have a huge effect in even a small locale. So yeah, it could be
people would be known. They're like,
forward.
oh, you can't travel to San Francisco on the first Friday of the month because it's just shut down.
Everything's just shut down.
I mean, you can go
That'd
there,
be so cool.
but it's going to be eerie, and you're going to walk around and not be able to buy anything.
There might be a lot of protesters hanging around, saying, doing stuff, doing activism. So it might be, in some ways, it might be really fun.
Hey, what are you guys doing? We're doing activism,
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah, organizing. You can have parties in the park, parties, organizing parties, are fun. Come hang out. You don't buy anything that day, but you can still consume things. You can eat food
But if you buy twice as much the day before and then don't buy anything the next day, it's still okay.
Work? It's still okay. Yeah, that works because it's about smoothing, right? So capitalism is extremely brittle because all the capitalists are trying to optimize everything, and part of their optimization is smoothing things over time. So if you create a big like disjunction in their like smoothing, it screws up their calculations and they get screwed
even if
up.
Everyone buys their Friday goods the day before, the companies aren't going to be like, man, these first Fridays suck, but first Thursdays are actually rocking right
bumping.
now.
Yeah, right. Well, actually it'll hurt them because on Thursdays they won't have enough people in production to like serve the demand on Thursday, and then Friday they'll pay all these people and they'll just be sitting around doing nothing.
This is what happened.
And so it's actually like, it's damaging on both sides. Capitalism depends on efficient capitalism, which is what all these sort of algorithms and spreadsheets are all trying to do, is to create super efficiency. It requires there to be like a smooth production and a smooth consumption. Anytime there's any disruption to like the smoothness, it's really inefficient, and the capitalists don't like it. I think we need to make another name for it. I think because general strike, it does have this historic meaning, and so in like labor syndicalism or whatever. So maybe we need another name, like whatever.
A strotest.
Yeah, so we'll try.
We already got this.
Strotest. Yeah. You're right. You did that. That's coined by Scott Maupin.
Where's the Wikipedia entry for strotest? We got to get that up and going.
Okay, that's enough of this big honker.
I like it.
If this bores everyone to tears, I'll just tell you the solution of the problems, it's just boring. And guess what? I don't know what to tell people. It's just boring.
If you're bored,
boring.
The reason is because it's boring. So take that.
Maybe that's what maybe that's why America has so many problems, is because it's just sort of more like, I was thinking about it. Like if I lived in Norway, like my friend, she went and lived in Norway for like 6 months, and she said it's incredibly peaceful to the point of boringness because Norway is so well organized. There's no poverty, no crime, no unnecessary illness, all the architecture is just beautiful. It's silent. Like cities are just quiet.
This sounds terrible.
I know.
What a horrendous place to be.
Americans, I think Americans kind of like, yeah, there's someone dying outside my house.
No, I was being sarcastic.
Street.
That sounds good.
Oh yeah, there's crime. I got robbed. Oh, it was so traumatic. Like Americans, I think they kind of like it. It's like the story would have nothing going on if we just solved all those problems, which we could totally do, but we just don't intentionally. We just leave all these problems.
Give me that Norway existence. I'm okay with it. I mean,
she said it was pretty boring.
I mean, I could deal with boredom. I could deal with boredom a lot better than I could deal with, rampant gun violence or whatever. Yeah.
I think people on some deep level, Americans must, it's all intentionally done in America. Like it's all by design, So I think Americans just like it, I think they just like a little bit of chaos.
We have our dumb Wild West cowboy genes that are still kicking around in our DNA. It's
right,
stupid.
Exactly.
And then we're all like, woo, ping, ping, ping.
And Hollywood, we all see ourselves as like the heroes of movies and TV shows. And movies and TV shows have to have conflict. And so there has to be like bad things going on.
It's true.
That are unrealistic. And so maybe. But anyways, if you want to have a boring life, which means there's no crime and everyone has money, everyone's comfortable, people aren't sick. Like Breaking Bad, right? Breaking Bad, best TV show in modern history, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
And it's about a guy who doesn't have health insurance. That's what it's about, right? If you were in Norway, that would just be the most boring TV show ever made. It would just be like, I'm a teacher, I got cancer, I immediately went to the hospital and got the cancer cured. Show over. And my wife and I have a difficult relationship, so we went and got couples therapy for free, and now we have a great marriage. And my kid is disabled, but he gets all the support he needs, and he's fine. So it's like
Breaking Bad is not the average American story. That's like an example of it going very
idealized.
bad.
I think it's the idealized American story. I think Americans want. Yes, they want.
You watch
tragedy.
Breaking Bad, and you're like, "Gosh, I wish I was having the problems that Walter White was having."
I think people are fantasizing. I think people fantasize about like being a drug criminal who gets away with stuff, and it's a fantasy, you know. Like he says in the show, he says, "It was me. I liked it. I liked every minute of it." Right in that famous scene.
All right,
you know.
Well, all you future drug criminals who fantasize about getting away with stuff, thanks for listening to our episode.
I just want a boring society.
It sounds like you don't want a boring society.
No, I do. I'm tired of this freaking violent, dangerous society we live in. Let's just have a boring
Let's just you and me,
Norwegian society.
Yeah, you and me move to Norway.
No
That's
crime.
it. That's the...
No, I don't want it. It sounds boring.
Oh, well.
All right.
We'll have to
Thanks,
solve this later.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Yeah. We should do some ad situations too.
Ads.
Nope, that's not how we should start our ads.
So I want to tell you about a podcast that I've been listening to that we connected with. Fire Breathing Kittens.
Fire Breathing Kittens.
Yes, easy to remember. This is it's not exactly Dungeons and Dragons. I shouldn't say that. It's tabletop gaming, fantasy gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Dungeons and Dragons is just one tabletop gaming rule set, but it's all in a universe, which is called Fire Breathing Kittens. Is like a guild of adventurers.
Okay.
And so they can swap in and out people, and it's just like you're hanging around at the Fire Breathing Kittens headquarters, and a letter arrives that says you're invited to something, you know,
That's
and
fun.
an adventure begins.
Yeah.
And then they do it for it's an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then
they play like
all the way
a campaign.
through, and they play a small campaign, a little event in the campaign, and it wraps up, and it's super fun. And the people playing it are like professional voice actors, so you can you're getting this like awesome story. It's like awesome adventure.
Yeah,
because they're just like breaking character and in character and like making choices and rolling dice, and you get exposure to all these different tabletop rule sets,
and you get to listen to them play through this game and be entertaining while they're doing it.
It's so fun.
Awesome.
Each episode is self-contained, and I've been listening to them while I work out and like when I walk around.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Fire Breathing Kittens.
I just thought we'd like let everybody know about that.
I love it.
Cool.
Check them out.
All right.